Summer's here, and between that excitement of planning for the big trip and the anxiety of what it's going to cost, a lot of people, end up doing something that surprises us, and that's that they feel guilty about it, which is not a position you want to be in after years of saving and planning. You want to be able to enjoy that beach vacation. So today we're going to talk about how travel fits into a real retirement plan and how Ryan and his team do that at Black Oak Asset Management. Welcome in. Glad to have you on the show once more. Ryan, we're gearing up for vacations. I know a lot of your summers planning for trips for the kids and going to softball and baseball and track and wherever else you guys are headed. But I know a lot of people are planning for the beach right now.
Yeah, it's that time of year, and I'm a beach bum, and our beach trips have been limited for obvious reasons with travel sports, but because most of these destinations we go to are not at the beach, but so we usually make it a plan. Like our family usually goes over like a fall break or something like that, where the weather is still nice. But so yeah, our beaches usually come later in the year, but yeah, most people that's their main destination during the summer.
Yeah, so I want to talk to you about travel and how you kind of work this into your plan as a retiree, because, we all want, I mean, for many people, travel is a big part of retirement, but there is that oftentimes that guilt that creeps in for spending that money. So as we kind of talk about how you guys build that into planning it and how you approach it at Black Oak Asset Management, is it actually something that you build into the plan? Are you specific about, okay, this is travel and vacation money?
You have to. It's easy just to get caught in the mundane monthly expenses. Like, hey, we need $8,000 a month. With all of our Social Security and our investments, this is how much we need to make ends meet on a monthly basis. Well, you need to live life. This is why we retire, to do the things that we want to do. And if it is the beach or, whatever floats your boat as far as where your destinations are, you do need to make a plan for that in your financial plan. So we do that. We ask them, because travel may be important to some people. It may not be important to other people, but you're still probably going to go places, whether it's, my dad going to all my kids' travel tournaments, or destinations or track meets. So we need to factor that in for him, and we need to factor that in for all of our clients. So some people are very intentional on their travel, which is great. I think it's a lot of bucket list items, if you will, when people do get to retirement. So some have the travel bug more, if you will. So we do plan that in. And with our software, you can plan that in on an annual basis. If you're like, we want to take one really big trip every couple of years or every 5 years or whatever that looks like, if it's built into the plan, the stress levels just completely come down. Now, do they melt away? Probably not melt away, but they do come down. And so you're like, hey, if I'm intentional with this and know it's built into my spending plan when I get to retirement, it just makes that vacation so much more enjoyable and pleasant, and you're not penny pinching when you get there. If it's factored into the budget, into the spending plan of your travel plans, then it makes it more worthwhile when you get there. So we absolutely do bake that in.
Yeah, I'm sure some people like to just see it on paper too before they feel like they can spend it, just to actually see that money is there. But as you're working through these plans and as you've built a bunch of these with people and talked about travel and retirement and spending, is there a natural rhythm to how retirees spend on travel? What kind of trends have you seen?
Yeah, there's definitely trends with that. When it comes to that, usually when people first retire, we kind of ask them, kind of what kind of income do they need on a monthly basis, and a lot of times the income needs or wants aren't going to be a whole lot different than when they were working. So we asked them that, like, hey, let's, the nickname is the go-go years. So the go-go years are when we're most healthy. It's when we're most vibrant in retirement. And, some people's retirement window is larger and some is smaller. So we have to figure, kind of plan that out. Obviously, we're not guaranteed tomorrow, but we still need to project that stuff out. So the quote unquote go-go years, people are tending to travel more, and they may be more extravagant, if you will, or adventurous, if you will. So a lot of times those things may cost more. Not necessarily. I have clients who are very creative on being adventurous with their trips, and maybe they pull a camper, or so there's ways that you can make it more cost efficient. Some may argue that a camper is not more cost efficient, but I just had that conversation with a client the other day too. I mean, he broke it down on a spreadsheet of the costs of a camper versus a hotel, and it wasn't much difference. So, but yeah, those go years, we want to be, if they want to travel, hey, let's build in that number on how much they want to spend each year, if it works in the retirement plan. If it pinches, so a lot of times we'll do the retirement plan kind of without travel, show what that looks like. And then when we put that travel in, kind of move that toggle, if you will, turn that button on, if you will, then we see the difference in the impact. If it doesn't make a significant impact and our chances of success are still very, very, very high, then we either spend more or maybe take multiple vacations on an annual basis. So definitely early on, again, the slow go years, it doesn't mean you don't travel. It just may mean, may not cost as much, because maybe the extent of the vacation is not as much. Maybe you're not gone as long. You don't want to be gone from home as long. So, some people get more homebody. They miss their own bed, so they're not out for a week or two at a time. So, but yeah, and then the no-go years, the travel tends to change, and we don't travel maybe as much because we're not as mobile. But then we have maybe health concerns, maybe some type of care is now shifting our money toward that. So we definitely want to plan for it more early on. We don't. If people like to travel, we don't do the retirement plan where we start it in year one and just continue it on, because it's usually just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, it's important to make sure you're approaching that correctly, so that you are, finding that balance and making sure you're planning for it appropriately. I'm sure there are times too, Ryan, that couples have a different opinion on travel, or at least a view on how much or where or what. So, how does that conversation go when you have couples that maybe don't see eye to eye necessarily on the type of spending or how much or where it's going to when it comes to travel?
So this is where a lot of times I'm a marriage counselor. People don't realize how much counseling that we do. Everybody thinks it's all numbers based. It's a large majority of what we do, and I love the numbers part. But a lot of times we are a marriage counselor. We're kind of the mediator between the two sides. So we try to give concessions on either side, how much people are spending and how much they want to do. So but it's amazing how many times we try to find the middle ground for the couple that we work with. Obviously, if it's just one person, then it's just one decision. But a lot of married couples that we work with, we try to find that fine line where it's kind of making both sides happy in that. So, but we do encourage, again, if it's in the budget, spend up to that. Like if it's a $5,000 budget, $10,000 budget, like don't cut corners on it. Like live life. If it's built in there into the retirement plan, spend every single bit of it. And then we encourage people to, if it's built into the plan, go ahead and start scheduling the other one. If it's a year from now, 2 years from now, go ahead and start working on that, because life can pass you by pretty darn quick. And you look up and 2 years and 3 years have gone by, like, oh, we didn't take this vacation. So I encourage people to do the planning for the next one while they're either there or finishing up that trip that they want to go on. So yeah, a lot of times there's a middle ground. A lot of times our couples are on the same page though when it comes to travel. Most people enjoy doing it, but occasionally we do get those that they're on either side of the fence, and we have to come in and mediate.
Yeah, I'm sure that is something that's pretty common, I guess, for a lot of the conversations you're having there in the office when it comes to money. I mean, we're all having different opinions, and there's oftentimes disagreements. That doesn't surprise me that much. But you mentioned talking about planning ahead, right? And not just, hey, looking at the next trip, but let's go ahead and look down the road. How important is that, though, especially when you're going to have maybe some big trips, or there's some bucket list items down the road? How important is it to be planning for kind of all of that and taking all that into account versus, okay, here's the next trip on my list, let's just think about this one?
Yeah, because like I said, time passes by, and then you don't realize how long it was in between those vacations. So if travel is hugely important for you, go ahead and start planning that next one out, and don't worry about the money aspect of it, because again, the plan is built for that. We have it baked in. So once we have the plan baked in, it makes the planning for the next one even that much easier. We're not thinking about pinching pennies, or let's do this, or let's go a few less nights or whatever. Like, don't skim on that stuff. That is experiences that you want to partake in, especially with your spouse. So go ahead and planning it. From a financial standpoint, that's our job. That's where we help with that. But then go ahead and start planning with the particulars of it. I have several clients who have kids who are travel agents, and yes, that's still a thing. I know we can go online and book everything ourselves, but it's amazing. I've gone through both avenues, and using a travel agent a lot of times is just, it cuts through all the noise. It finds deals. So there is still a huge value in going through a travel agent to do that, because they can just find maybe some of the nuances that you couldn't. I don't have time to sit here and search and search and search and search for all the details of a trip. I'd rather just have somebody else do it and then give me some options, and then boom, I'll pick. So there is a lot of value in using a travel agent still.
Yeah. What about when it comes to costs that you've seen that maybe sneak up on people or catch people off guard in retirement? They're not really thinking about necessarily when it comes to travel. Is there anything that you've seen that can trip people up if they're not careful?
I mean, probably I wouldn't say the biggest one, but if you travel like internationally, I mean, needing care internationally, like going to, if you get sick or something happens to you, I mean, kind of having a plan for that. That's not a frequent occurrence, but that has happened to one of my clients where they had to go to the hospital for a while. So just kind of not necessarily making a plan for that, because that's like, you're probably over planning something like that, but just be aware of what your options are if you are going international. Obviously, domestic is a little easier on that. I'm not a big international traveler. I'm not opposed to it, but it's not like I got to see all these foreign places. So I don't really think about that much, because most of us travel domestically. So just making a plan for stuff like that. I mean, obviously, travel insurance. Some people think that's just a money grab, but depending on where you're going, if you're going to the Caribbean during, hurricane season, stuff like that, you probably want to add that on there just as another peace of mind. That usually travel insurance is not a deal breaker when it comes to cost, so might as well just put that in the plan to do that. But like I said, a medical stay somewhere, but that's really about it. Obviously, food, the food budget can sometimes get out of control. So just be aware of, hey, how many times do we plan on going out to eat and how many people are going? So food and going out to eat now is so stinking expensive. You do have to make a plan for that. And even I was talking to a couple of clients earlier, like renting beach chairs and stuff. And they were talking about how much that is per day. It's like, oh my gosh. Just getting an umbrella and a couple beach chairs, how much that is each day. So just trying to think of all the miscellaneous things that can go in that won't sneak up and get you.
Yeah, it's a lot. And look, that's why people feel a little bit guilty about the expenses, right? And try to maybe put it off, or maybe, hey, I'll skip this trip this year. But look, you saved and you worked so hard to put yourself in this position that you want to be able to spend that money. And with some planning, you could feel comfortable doing that, right? So look, we've kind of talked through a lot of this, but go ahead and sit down with Black Oak Asset Management for yourself. Reach out to Ryan. You can go to speakwithryan.com and get on his calendar and really start talking through some of these things and some of your goals, right? And start putting a plan in place to help you reach those, because, it is so much fun to be able to get out and experience a lot of these things that you've always wanted to do. And you have that opportunity with some proper planning. So hopefully this helps you out if you're thinking about travel. If that's a big big priority in your retirement, now's the time to start taking the next step towards securing that and putting that in place. So Ryan, thanks as always for taking us through that, and good luck with your travel this summer as well.
Thank you.